Welcome to Jazz Time. JazzTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. If you like this watch and would like to purchase it at the lowest price anywhere online, click on the link in the description below to buy it at JazzTime.com. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Self-Winding Chronograph. Reference 26238OR.OO.2000OR.01 in rose gold with a blue dial. I will tell you a little bit about the history of the Offshore, then tell you about the where this watch stands in the lineup of other similar Offshores, then tell you about the case, bezel, dial, bracelet movement, finally try it on and give you my thoughts. So let's start with the history. Well, the Offshore it was derived from the Royal Oak. The Royal Oak was created in 1972, and 30 years later, approximately 1993, the Offshore came out, or that makes 20 years, sorry. 20 years later, the Offshore came out with the first Offshore, which was nicknamed the Beast, and the reason it was nicknamed that is because it took the Royal Oak, made it thicker, made it bigger, and made the bracelet chunkier, and so it looked kind of like a beast. That's why they nicknamed it that. It's since got and Audemars Piguet is a brand that constantly pushes the envelope, and they've done so in this watch again. And at the time, it was very controversial, but over time, the Offshore has become a staple brand or staple collection of the AP lineup. And here we have it 30 years later. They've reissued the Beast, and they've done so with a blue dial and in rose gold. So now let's start talking about where does this watch stand in the lineup of other similar Offshores. Well, the Offshore, as you can imagine, comes in many different variations. For men, it comes in the size 42 for the divers and the chronographs. And then they also comes in size 43. They used to come in 44, but that got discontinued and it's replaced by the 43s. And these 42s, the way that you can tell they're 42, well, of course, the ones are smaller, but you can also look at the push buttons. The push buttons are the things in the corner, and they have this circular look as opposed to this sort of a rectangular look on the 43s. Okay, and so let's start talking about where does this watch stand in the lineup. Well, this is part of the 42 millimeter class. Okay, they also make a diver, which doesn't have a chronograph feature. It's just a time and date only. And then they have the chronograph, which what you see here. Okay, so as far as 42 millimeter goes, they've revamped the 42s, actually revamped the 44s as well. They did so back in approximately 2021 or 22, something like that. And so for the 42s, what they have done differently, I'll go through it when I talk about the specifics of the watch itself. But right now I'm telling you about where this watch stands in the lineup. So other 42s they make a rose gold one, an all ceramic one. They make the original steel or blue one with the blue dial, which was nicknamed the Beast. They also make one in titanium, and they make some on rubber straps with ice blue dial. They make a green one. Anyways, they make many different variations of it, and they also make a diver. So those are all in 42. This one is probably the king of the heap, though, because it is made in all rose gold, and it is really they also kind of call this the brick because it's like a huge brick of gold, as you can see. All right, and this is the latest iteration of it, the latest and greatest, all in rose gold with a blue dial. Okay, now let's start talking about the watch itself. Starting with the case. Now, the case is 42 millimeters, so it is like an Offshore, it is like a Royal Oak, but it's even larger. The Royal Oak is at 41, and the Offshore is 42, which makes sense because I told you at the beginning of the video, the Offshore was an offshoot of the Royal Oak and was bigger, badder. It's like a Royal Oak on steroids. So it makes sense that it would be bigger, and it is at 41 millimeters. You might not think that's that much, but it definitely is, and it's also thicker. The thickness of this is 15.3 millimeters. The 41 millimeter Royal Oak, I think, is something around 12.9 let's call it 13 millimeters. So it's still quite a bit thinner. So this one not only is thicker, it's also bigger, which makes sense. And if you just look at, well, we're going to talk about the rest of it, but just the head itself is just bigger, but it still has the same basic design and look of a royal oak. So it really does look like a royal oak, except it's just bigger. And in fact, the name, they call it a royal oak offshore. They don't just call it a new offshore. So it is still a royal oak, but it is now a royal oak offshore. So, which is in contrast to some of their other line collections, such as their Code 1159. They don't call that a Royal Oak Code 1159 because it's not. It does not share that same look. It's just a code. Okay. Anyways, so let's start talking about now the dial. Now the dial is an interesting dial. If you look at these numbers, let's start with the most obvious thing, at least to me, is the subdials. They used to call this watch the Beast, and what is special about it is that the subdials look very vintage. They have this, like, you see the numbers, they have these dots and stuff. They look like a throwback, and they did that on purpose to make it look kind of like the previous, like when it first was released. And another thing that's interesting is they use a mega tapisserie dial here, and instead of using the big waffle pattern, they use a very small waffle pattern, and they call this it's a grand tapisserie, as opposed to the mega tapisserie. It's a small, very small waffles, if you will. Okay, and also let's look at the arrangements of the chronograph. The arrangement, you see that they are at 12, 6, and 9. So that's the way that they arrange it. But if you look at some of their other chronographs, such as their 43s, the subdials are arranged at 3, 6, and 9, which is different. Okay, all right. So that's that part. Now let's move on to the bracelet. The bracelet is a 2000 bracelet. That's the model number of it. And what is different about it? Let's compare it to the Royal Oak. It is also thicker, and it's more rounded, as opposed to the Royal Oak, which is a little bit flatter. And I believe they had to do that because the watch is so big and hefty. So everything about the bracelet is just bigger. And it looks just much bigger. Yeah, and but it still looks like a Royal Oak in that it has the center links are the same, the beveled edge. Everything else is really just the same. I think I forgot to mention something when I was talking about the case, by the way, which is the pushers. The pushers here are quite nice. They're blue to match the rest of the dial. The dial is in blue. It makes sense that they would put the pushers in blue. But the pushers are actually rubber. Yeah, it's strange, but they are actually made in rubber. Now that's good for two reasons. One, it makes it much easier to press when it's a ceramic push button. They can get kind of slippery, so if you press it, your finger can slide off. So they put it in rubber. And two, it's just quite interesting. You don't really see a whole lot of rubberized parts on the pushers. In fact, they even did it on the screw down crown here. They put it in rubber, and it makes it just easier to manipulate. I said two things. The second thing is also that as opposed to ceramic, which if you ding it or hit it or something, it can just crack straight away. Rubber doesn't crack. It of course can chip, but you can also take that and put it. You can easily return it to AP. They can fix it, and it's not really all that expensive. Okay, that is the case. And since we're talking about this, we were talking about the bracelet. Another change in the bracelet that was not evident in the previous generation was that now AP has figured out an ingenious way to be able to remove the bracelet without having to use any tools. Before, you had to use all these tools, and it was a double-sided screw. It was a big pain. But now you can actually use an interchangeable strap system, and you can change the strap. So let's say there's too much gold is, you don't want to be too flashy that day. You could change it to a leather strap or even rubber strap. It really only takes a few minutes to change the strap. It's quite a nice system here. Okay, and actually, you might actually like it on a rubber strap because it can almost look like a second or a different watch. And on a blue leather strap to match the blue dial, I think this watch would really, really pop. Okay, or maybe even a white strap. But anyways, so let's move on to the last thing, which is the movement. Now the movement is a caliber 4404. It's slightly different than the caliber for the 43 millimeters, and that's because on the 43 millimeters, the subdials are in the 369 position. On the 42 millimeters, the subdials are in the 6912 position. It's a very similar movement. It looks, but what is different about it than the previous generation? Well, first, it's bigger. It fills the space very, very well. It looks like it was made for this watch, and it was. So that's one big difference. Also, the power reserve is increased. Before it was only like 48 hours. Now it's 70 hours. So the power reserve is nice, and it also just looks nice. It looks much more modern and beautiful. All right, now it's time for me to try this watch on and give you my thoughts. Now, this watch retails, at least as of 2024, for around $93,000. That's quite a lot of money for any watch, no matter who you are, even if you're super rich. It's a lot of money for the watch like this, or any watch, as I said. What are my thoughts? Well, it takes a particular kind of person to wear a all gold huge brick on your wrist, AP. But if you're that person and you can pull it off, by all means, you should. It's a really powerful watch. It looks fantastic, and I think the owner who has this is, or wants to buy it, it's really gonna stand out as a awesome watch in your collection. So if you'd like to buy this watch, click on the link in the description below to buy it at jazztime.com.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to Model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model, and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.